you put on quite a show.
So, yeah, yeah. You might need time to think it over, but I'm just fine moving forward, and I'll ease your mind if you give me the chance. I'll never make you cry. Come on, let's ride. I don't want another pretty face. I don't want just anyone to hold. I don't want my love to go to waste. I want you and you're beautiful, so you're the one I wanna chase. You're the one I wanna just wanna know that you feel it too, 'cause there is nothing left to hide. I don't want another pretty face, I don't want just anyone to hope, I don't want my love to go to waste. I want you and you're beautiful, so you're the one I wanna chase. You're the one I wanna hold, I won't let another minute go to waste. I want you and your soul, I don't want another pretty face, I don't want just anyone to hold, I don't want my love to go to waste. I want you and your beautiful soul. Yeah, yeah. Your beautiful soul. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, beautiful soul.
Once again, you're listening to 106.7 Marino News FM.
Marino News FM. Sisid na. Sisid na.
Sisid balita, sisid sa musika, Marino News FM. Sisid na, sisid balita, sisid sa musika, Marino News FM. Sisid na, sisid balita, sisid sa musika, Marino News FM. Sisid na, sisid balita, sisid sa musika, Marino News FM. Sisid na, kung nais mong sumisid, halika na. Pag-uugutan sa ilalim, sisid na. Kasama ang balita at musika, mag-e-enjoy ka, halina't makinig ka. Sisid balita, sisid sa musika, Marino News FM. Sisid na, sisid balita, sisid sa musika, Marino News FM. Sisid na, sisid balita, sisid sa musika, Marino News FM. Sisid na, sisid balita, sisid sa musika, Marino News FM. Sisid na. Venea, sigiya, sambuya kita todo. Move el cadera, todo uwiya Marino. Alto mano bajo, joven pati viejo. Junto kita todo, hace suena cada radyo. Sisid balita, sisid sa musika, Marino News FM. Sisid na, sisid balita, sisid sa musika, Marino News FM. Sisid na, sisid Marino, sisid Marino, Marino News FM. Sisid Marino, sisid Marino, Marino News FM. Marino, Marino, Marino News FM.
Yo, what's up?
DXCP Marino News FM of Zscmst is an affiliate station of Philippine Broadcasting Service, Bureau of Broadcast Services.
Ito ang Tunog Marino live broadcasting from ZSCMST Campus sa Zamboanga City. News, music, and entertainment. 106.7 Marino News FM. Marino News FM. Sisina.
The anchor's views and statements on the preceding program does not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Zamboanga State College of Marine Sciences and Technology, Philippine Broadcasting Service, Marino News FM Management and staff.
Okay, buenas tardes a todos. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Zamboanga City. Buenas tardes, Zamboanga State College of Marine Sciences and Technology. El Diosceres Head of Disaster Risk Reduction Management, si Sir Roderick Duco Trio, of course, being known as Ricky in the community of ZSCMST. Okay, this afternoon I am very much fortunate to be asked to discuss about disaster risk reduction. Actually, this is a product of our National Service Training Program headed by our very much energetic and able coordinator, si Ma'am Van Tumanda. Ma'am Van, good afternoon. Of course, we would like also to extend afternoon greetings to our engineer, our very handsome engineer who is here. Actually, he's the one controlling my microphone, or else if I'm not going to mention very handsome. He might cut off my sound. So, Engineer April Opinion, sir. Buenas tardes. And of course, thank you so much to our college president, Dr. Jaime Gijalon, and of course to the Zscmst community for this opportunity to be discussing a very timely issues and concerns that we have now, especially on what we are having now in our na daton komunidad. Okay, so ara dia ay man-discuss iyo para na daton mga estudyante. Of course, before anything else, I would like also to greet our beloved students all over Region 9, wherever you are. Please stay safe and be healthy always. And of course, to our avid listeners of Marino News FM, thank you so much for tuning with us, and thank you so much for supporting our fast-growing station in Zamboanga City. Ingon pa si Lando Bisaya Doblado, naanata sa number 2. Kaya kung ma-number 1 ta, unsa na lang sila. Diba? So, Sir Lando Doblado, pasensya ka, ako sa ang naa sa imuhang microphone sa imuhang bangko. Of course, you will always love Sir Lando Doblado in his time slot sa iyang gitik-gitik. That's every day in our Marino News FM. Okay, so I guess you might be wondering why Zscmst with the station will discuss disaster risk reduction management. Porque kaha si sila yaase este programa ara tarde. Of course, this is part of our community service, part of our package to help inform, mitigate possible problems along the way, especially to our students. Of course, our setup of education now is on our online classes. So, our students are not with us. So, Marino News FM station is a very, let's say, a very important way of extending and communicating to our students. So to our NSTP students out there, I know you were informed to tune in with Marino News FM. So tune in, and of course you can also extend your questions or queries in our FB page. Actually, we are now in live streaming, so you could tune in with us as well. So we will be monitoring your questions, and of course your NSTP coordinator will also monitor the questions that you will be sending to us, and we will try our best to be able to satisfy you with the right answers for that matter. Okay, so I guess we are going to start with our presentation. Of course, I would like to give credit to the Philippine Red Cross for training me to be a volunteer. Actually, I'm a lifetime volunteer of the Red Cross. So what do you mean by lifetime volunteer? I may not be physically present in the Red Cross compound, which is very busy anytime of the day, 24/7. The Philippine Red Cross will always be there to support everyone in Zamboanga City. Of course, we would like also to greet the chairman of the local board of the Philippine Red Cross, Sir Victor Catala Jr. Alyoso Jr. Sir Vic, thank you so much for honing and training me. Si Sir Vic Yamira sa Mio development as a student, high school pa, yakadaya kolehiyo, and until now, of course, I will never forget Red Cross, because Red Cross have a very big impact to my development as a person. Of course, I would like also to greet our administrator, si Ma'am Josephine Fernandez. Ma'am Jocelyn Fernandez, I'm sorry. I mean, Ma'am Jo, buenas tardes. And of course, the strong men and women of the local Red Cross of Zamboanga City. Muy buenas tardes a todos. Good afternoon, and keep the flame burning so hot in helping humanity. Okay, so Red Cross is my trainer with all whatever am I now, how I connect with helping humanity and how things go better in extending help is because of Red Cross. So thank you very much, Red Cross. Always first, always there. Ko sa kadila tagline, di amon tagline ara. But the point there is we are always there to help you. Okay, so let's do first understanding hazards and disasters. Of course, when we talk about prevention, we need also to identify technical terms. Okay? What do you mean by hazards? And what do you mean by disaster? Okay, the outline of presentation is the definition of concept and until the classification of hazards. Okay, let's go straight. What is disaster? Let's talk about hazard first. What do you mean by hazard? Hazard is a dangerous phenomenon, substance, or human activity or condition. Ito yung mga sinasabi nating contributory factor. When we talk about hazard, we talk about what will be if that will come. Okay, if ever there is typhoon, what are the hazard things that we have? Okay? Kung ba kita debe man mira si tsene heavy downpour of rain. Okay, si LD aton bakasa talina cerca na Rio, are we near the river banks or are we in an area that is low lying, and if ever there is heavy downpour of rain, automatically there is flood. Okay, so that what one consideration now, I guess that would be. Okay, next is vulnerability. Okay, vulnerability. It means characteristics and circumstances that makes a community, system, or asset susceptible to the damaging effects of hazard. Okay, ito yung vulnerability. So we identify already what are the different hazards, and here comes our vulnerability. When we talk about vulnerability, are we easy to be part of this hazard? Okay? Okay, next is our capacity. A combination of all the strengths, attributes, resources available that can reduce the level of risk or effect of disaster. Tiyan ba kita kapasidad in case of ay suside? Let's say for example, earthquake. Aldi aton bakasa, hindi tanbilong na so-called arriba na monte na possibility man soil erosion. So, are we ready to mitigate the problem? So, kapasidad del di aton presente sitwasyon. Tiene ba kita para konese? Okay, the next is exposure. People, properties, systems, or other elements present in hazard zones that are thereby subject for potential losses. So when we talk about exposure, the degree of our present situation now, si manulan gat ben todas, siyan baha na di aton komunidad. LD aton bakasa ay sumi o hindi? Expose ba kita na ansi na klase posisyon? Okay, next. Disaster risk. Okay, ito yung sinasabi nating the potential disaster losses in lives, health, status, livelihood, assets, and services. Okay, disaster risk. Tabla C. Okay, ara, very simple. The disaster mathematical equation. And ante, we made mention about hazard. Okay, to our listener, we're talking about the factors to consider. Okay, El hazard times vulnerability times exposure divided by capacity equals disaster risk. O diba? Yabira kita na mathematics. Actually, mathematics di mi gat sa very favorite subject. So, pagka-favorite di miyo, no kere ko nila bira always. Okay. So that is the disaster mathematical equation. We talk about hazard, we talk about vulnerability, we talk about exposure. Plus, kilaya kita konele mang counterpart. How can we be able to cope with those mentioned? Man equals to konese SLD to your risk factor to consider. Okay, so let's go. Kosa ba kita tamin? What do you mean by disaster? Okay, so in our live streaming now, tapone alya, a serious disruption of the functioning of a community or society involving widespread human, material, economic, or environmental losses and impacts which exceeds the ability of the affected community, society to cope using its own resources. Okay, so this serious disruption of the functioning of the community or society. El ulan ba? Resyo ulan or heavy downfall of rain or typhoon, can we consider that as a disaster? Okay? Is that a disaster per se? What if gali esebentodas el ulan pero el de aton drainage system benamente para el resyo aguacero, abukal tabla sila, ay entra na di aton mga onita pa sa mga agwa, hindi tan stock na di aton komunidad. So that is what we call preparedness. Okay, so when you talk about serious disruption of the functioning, no ay maya keda normal el sitwasyon, si man resyo el ulan, or we experience heavy downfall of rain. Okay, lagay kita, we will talk about most of the experiences later on. What we are trying to identify here are the definition of terms for us to be able to really understand what they mean by disaster. Kasi some people will always connote, yan ulan lang resyo. Yan consider ya konele disaster. Kaya porke, automatically, yan baha. So, ya kada abnormal el sitwasyon. No hay mayaken pwede sale, no hay mayaken pwede kamina, because el di ila komunidad, ya kada ya lumus na agwa or the heavy downfall of rain. Okay. Next, one of the kung di aton mga viewers na di aton live streaming ya, tiyan kita tapone caricature wherein el gente expose ele que talyale abajo. El problema lang, el monte is having landslide. So, ele abajo is high vulnerable to the situation. So, that is what you call the hazard there, is because the exposure of people in the lowlands are great for soil erosion during earthquakes. So, that is the hazard there is rolling of stones, soil erosions, el kenta keda abajo, sila el affected. So, el exposure are the people living below. That's the high vulnerability. Okay, si mira to con el drawing, automatically taman mira yato pa. Kay the rolling of stones or the soil erosions caught people unaware who are living in the lowland. Of course, this could be attribute yat siya kita sa actual experiensya. Of course, thank you Lord for sparing Zamboanga City with that, but of course in other parts of the country they experience that. Recently, there is a what we call the heavy downfall of rains, yan typhoon, yan Ulysses. Of course, on that level, yatsene, heavy rains. Of course, yan flood. Of course, yatsene, soil erosion. el cosa ya sucede, it becomes disastrous because the community was not able to prepare for that situation. So when we talk about we are not prepared, we were not able to do preemptive measure. Preemptive measures in a way na hindi leera sucede to become disaster if we were able to project. We were able to do all necessary precautionary measures to that level. But of course, situations will always vary because when we talk about human or natural-made calamity, even the high technology will predict. But again, it's natural. Prediction will always be part of our precautionary measure, but the natural phenomenon always go its way. Okay, so can a disaster be prevented? Pwede ba kita? That is our question. Can a disaster be prevented? So to our students who are listening, I hope you can also do your answers there. Pwede ba kita? Can we prevent? Can a hazard be prevented? That's also another question. Okay, let us answer as we discuss further. When we talk about prevention, the outright avoidance of adverse impacts of hazards and related disaster. So, a while ago, we learned about hazard. When we talk about hazard, the possibilities of the situations in our locality. Si Chene, if we are living in a valley, and of course, valley is surrounded by mountains, what are the hazard factors there? Okay, landslide, that's one. Okay, flood, that is also one. Okay, upon identifying the hazard, let's do preventive measures, preventive reactions. So, what do? One is we could do, of course, the advocacy of Zscmst is to plant more trees, mitigate the direct reaction of landslide at the same time or soil erosion because the trees holds our soil. So that is also one of a preemptive measure. Next is for us not to be flooded, what would be the prevention? Of course, always is we don't cover the natural passage of water. Let's give the natural or how living in an area where we already have identified na if there is heavy downfall of waters, si Chene aguacero, si Chene onde pasa el agua, where water passes through, definitely it won't hindi man stagnant na area and it will not cause flood. Okay, that's prevention. Of course, again, porke bataan tangklag di aton mga waterways. Ken bata ase stagnant konese di aton mga waterways, di aton mga imbornal. El mga basura di aton. Okay, again, if you don't want to experience such a disastrous situation, let us do our part as well. Do not amakal sila tabla numa ataka numa kosasteon at sabakano numa pribini con el agua ay sale naturally. So el di aton mga imbornal, the waterways are created for us for water to pass us by. So si Chene mga basura talya na good luck, goodbye. No ay kikosap sucede. Okay. So, Chene kita i-entra ka naton uno audience di aton si Renzo Rebolios. We can prevent disaster by promoting and implementing on how to save our motherland. Thank you very much, Renzo, for joining us. Okay? So, amo kasi Renzo Yaabla, we have to protect Mother Earth for that matter. Okay, we also have one here, si Mariel B. Vidal. Yes, all of them can be prevented if we know what to do, such as planting more trees, to advocate other people's students not to cut trees. Okay, thank you very much. And also, we also have one, si Francis Tuble Bais. We can able to ease imminent damage and destruction through meticulous preparation. Thank you so much. Okay, so, yun. Thank you very much to our live streamers there. All your answers are correct. These are all possible. Of course, we can prevent all of this to happen because sometimes what happened is part of the product human made out of it. Okay? So, ang takyak, we already made we already have discussed on the prevention. Again, Yabla Enante, we need to do our part by cleaning our environment, by planting more trees. Of course, in doing so, then we will be able to prevent possible occurrence of a disastrous phenomenon as such as flooding and all other related damages. Okay. In the mitigation, okay, when we talk about mitigation, is the lessening or limitation of the adverse impacts of hazards and related disasters. Okay, so lessening or limitation of the adverse impact of hazards and related disaster. That is mitigation. Okay, so when we talk about prevention, of course, prevention and mitigation, amukan sila tabla, they are sina pamilya pa sa man hermano, hermana sa sila dos. When we talk about prevention, we talk about mitigating activities as well. Plant more trees. If you are in the mountains, you plant more trees. Don't cut trees. For trees will always be part of our mitigating factor, especially on heavy downpour of rain. And also when in times of other human natural calamity, just like earthquakes, this will also help hold our soil. Of course, all of these again are part of our preventive and mitigating activity. Okay, next technical term is preparedness. When we talk about preparedness, we talk about the knowledge and capacities developed to effectively anticipate, respond to, and recover from the impacts of likely, imminent, or current hazard events or condition. What we're doing now is part of preparedness. Information campaign. Educating everyone is part and a major impact in our preparedness activity. If you don't know what is happening in your community, if you are not also very sensitive on where you are staying, you just have a carefree kind of an attitude. And later on, you are caught unaware, you're sinking already. That makes it a disastrous situation. So, knowledge and capacities developed to effectively anticipate situation. Okay, abla kita inante. Heavy downpour of rains. How do we prepare for that? Of course, we already made preventive measures. We already had mitigating measures for that level. And we can have more insights on that. Si hindi gayot, pwede kay amo lang kita tsenekasa, no pwede gat kita abla pa ibita. We cannot also transfer our home because again, with limited resources, what we have to do now is to capacitate ourselves, to prepare for eventualities. Maybe ponea kita alrededor del di aton casa, more preventive measures on how para hindi entral agua na datong casa. That's also one to prevent flood. Okay, ese lang kita actually basic lang ni Aldi aton mga examples as of now kasi we are still on the level of identifying or making all the terms to be understood by everyone. Okay. When we talk about the hazard maps, kita al Pilipinas kasi very rich. Senaya kita typhoon belt, taki pagat kita na ring of fire. So when we held the belt, sene pa kita ring. Onde man to konese pwede mira. So when we talk about typhoon belt, the Philippines is really daw el typhoon ben in labgat na Pilipinas. Every year, hindi abaha na typhoon taliga ka naton. Ara lang mismo within the month of October, November, kwanto tipon yan yaliga ka naton. Ha? El latest ara, el cosa eso si Typhoon Ulysses. After that, sene pa Kenkel Typhoon, si no may kita pensa? Kay makadwele lang el heart. Basta, el di aton Pilipinas, our beloved Philippines is very rich. We are in the typhoon belt. And we are also in the ring of fire. When we talk about the ring of fire, it means the Philippines itself is part of an active ring of abla kita possible, not necessarily possible. Of course, possibilities are there. Of course, of earthquakes. Okay? Taki kita na sitwasyon na identified na kita kay El Pilipinas is really part of these possibilities of a natural phenomenon. When we talk about phenomenon kasi abla kita taliya, no pwede kita konese abla numa because it's part of what we are. We cannot anymore do abla kita magic. What we can do is to prepare and to mitigate situation. Okay. So we have classification of hazards. We have natural hazards or technological or man-made hazard. When we talk about natural hazards, we're talking about natural. Natural gani. Because how could we define natural? Beyond human control probability. So, si Chene typhoon, pwede ba kita kontrol ako ng typhoon? Ken kaha pwede. Lama kita ko ng Avengers or lama kita ko ng Super Friends. So, we cannot. Typhoon is a natural hazard. Okay, before Chene tayo na entertainment si Mariel B. Vidal. Good day, sir. Ask lang po, what is the first thing most important to do in case of emergency? Mariel, depende kasi sa nakosa klase emergency to taman mean. Okay? So, of course, when we talk about preparedness, pwede kita man identify possible emergencies. Nakosa kita tsene, whether it's natural or whether it's man-made. When we talk about natural hazards, when we talk about typhoon is coming, there is already preemption. When we talk about typhoon, sabi kita kosa el sucede. There is already what we call preliminaries. That is why our government agencies are doing all its best for us to be able to be informed, for us to be able to know things to happen and for us to prepare. Okay, number 2 of technological or man-made. When we talk about technological companies that create disaster. Yaman explode elon kumpanya, yak kema. That's man-made, which supposedly we are in control, but unfortunately it goes beyond human control. And man-made, Another type of man-made calamities, aki ka nato na Mindanao, ben manadagat kita man-made calamities. Bomba, explosions. These are sample. This is one of the example of man-made calamity. Insurgencies, gera, shootouts. We don't know when will it strike. These are caused by human. These are considered to be man-made. Okay? So, takiya kita ara. Understanding disaster. Okay? When we talk about natural calamities, one is earthquake. Can ba carry siya ng earthquake? Of course, there's none. When there's earthquake possibility, there is what? Movements of our land. Maybe it's upward or sideward. Even underwater, there is earthquake. Okay? Don't you know that every day there is earthquake? Do you believe that every moment there is earthquake? Now we are experiencing a mild, what do you mean? Earthquakes already, movements. Tan rekomigo si Engineer Lapinia ko sa kayutan min at earthquake. Ito engineer o tragan sila dito kabesa. Al earthquake tang kwento yo natural calamity. Si kosa man sa earthquake na dito yung kabesa dito yung lang si. Okay? Okay, kidding aside. So it's true. Accordingly to our government agency who is concerned, or the, let's say, the field box, every minute we experience movement. But it's unfortunately we don't it's beyond na scale that we can feel. But recently, yatsa na kita mga movements. Yatsa na gana earthquake, I guess 2 or 3 days ago. There was a recorded movement. There's an earthquake. So, Zamboanga City, yan feel ele, pero not that abla kita very eminent. Okay? So, earthquake. So, basta chene earthquake, automatically chene fire. Porque kasi chene ansina. Yan earthquake yake mapagayot. Because when there is movement of land, definitely what is on top of land will also move. And most especially if they are within the belt, then definitely it will really cause damage. And disastrous it will be. Okay, we also have one online. We have Anjanet Taup Oklarit. Good day, sir. Ilang faults meron ang Pilipinas? Ilang faults ba meron? Actually, being in the typhoon belt and in the ring of fire, we may be able to identify situations or areas for that. Maybe we'll not just know more on the number. Though, pasakal depensa kay no sabi el number, no? What is very prominent with us as far as our situation now is, which we are trying to monitor, is our Sulus rain. That is one fault that we are trying to monitor, because if it will really move, then definitely we are going to be affected. Okay, tiyan kanyan answer ka naton. Tiyan kita daw 30 active fault for the Philippines. 30. May na to, uno lang yung sabi, pero tiyan kita 30. Thank you very much to our monitor as well for giving us the answer. Okay? So technically, we have 30. Okay. So, again, what we are trying to, for me, as far as knowledge is concerned, my retention until now, which concerns me much, is our Sulus range. According to Engineer Labayog of Philbox, ablale, hindi man kita taas con ustedes miedo. Tan-inform lang kita. No, engineer, na whatever happens to this area will always affect Zamboanga City as one major impact to us. Okay, so we have talked about earthquake. Next is tsunami. Cause of is tsunami. When there is enough or when there is earthquake, especially Zscmst is in the coastal area, definitely if the earthquake scale reaches to the level that would create tsunami, there's a possibility. Okay? Aula pa nga sila if we have a 7.6 something above, going higher, possibility of cost of tsunami. And God forbids, we don't like it to happen to Zscmst. Actually, as far as the school is concerned, the worst scenario that I experienced and is when we had a water surge. A very heavy downpour plus the sudden rise of the water level. It flooded the entire Zscmst main campus. I was here during that time. El agua almost yaliga na tuhod di mio, which we try to monitor what happened. But that was the first exposure for such a situation. Okay? Again, for tsunami, what causes tsunami is earthquake, especially more if earthquake starts under the sea. Okay? Ablagan na sila technically. There's a memory reserves me right, 7.6 something possibility that would cause tsunami. Okay, landslide. Okay, so when we talk about landslides, it's another natural calamity. Especially those who are living in the lowlands. Of course, when there's lowlands, there are highlands at the same time. So, if we are not prepared to mitigate the situation, if the continuous downpour of rain, continuous yagani ele, todas pagayot, at the same time, the capacity of our land or the soil cannot anymore withstand with the water itself, then it will soften. Then next is what we call landslides. For those who are living in a situation like that, so it means that's your hazard. What will be your mitigation? Okay? As of now, when you travel going to the provinces, along the way, they are trying to do the reef-roughing for that matter and doing this all other natural man-made barriers to stop possible soil erosion or landslide for that matter. Okay? And of course, again, yaabla kalinante di aton mga yan post na daton live stream na we need to plant more trees, more vegetation, more of that. For this can hold water and this can hold soil for that matter. Ay, ohala, hindi kita kurta di aton mga pono. So reminders to our Zscmst community, there is really an existing law and it's being monitored by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources that cutting of trees, trimming will be better, but not cutting to the extent of killing, or else will be imprisoned for 6 months and will be having a corresponding financial liability. Manmultaya kita, entra pa kita na kalaboso. Ken kere, el rason nya kurta lang le, pono na Zscmst. So, which we don't do that. We don't do that. We are not going to do that and it will not happen to Zscmst. So, reminders to everyone. And also, uno pa, kema. Ya usakat sa Conal Marino FM ara para man remind that burning anytime is also against law because this promote air pollution. This will create unnecessary causes inhaling of burn situation inside the campus or anywhere wherever you are. So again, there is also a law that prohibits burning of waste burning of leaves, burning of other natural waste that we have. What we do is to convert it into fertilizer and for us to be able to fertilize our soil for a more productive planting ahead. So no burning of waste inside the school premises or any other areas ba kasi pwede ka no sa skuhi. Good luck. Okay. Volcanic hazards. Akel taabla kita. Part of this is again Philippines is part of the Ring of Fire. So it means we have a number of active volcanoes. No maya oses pregunta kwanto bilog ha? Basta we are in the Ring of Fire and thank God Zamboanga City does not really do not have an active volcano. Okay? So volcanic hazards, if you identified your area with an active volcano, then please do prepare, educate yourself. Okay, do mitigating activities already. Of course, when we do mitigating activities, we do preparedness, we are again lessening the impact of this possible hazard. Next, okay. Typhoon. We are again part of this typhoon belt. Ablagan sila and I keep on we keep on having a joke. You have a ring, you have a belt. Pero typhoon belt at typhoon belt, Ring of Fire lang naman. Okay, so the Philippines again, as I said, hindi bababa sa 10 sa isang taon that we are being visited by typhoon. Heavy downfall of rains, of course, that's it. Of course, heavy downfall of rains plus the winds, combination of two. Who would love to be part of it? If there is typhoon, there is flood. Pwede ba? Ansyane bagat ansina? Si manada agua, sene daw flood. Of course, if we have an area that will catch all this water, then definitely we're going to be part of it. But again, preparation-wise, learn the situation of our homes, learn the situation of our areas, and mitigate the situation. Planting more trees, again, is another impact. And number 2, waste segregation is also very important. Don't allow our waste to flow in our rivers, to flow in our drainage systems, because when they clog, then good luck. Okay? Of course, Zamboanga City is always experiencing ponaya kita flood, baha. Kwanto lang, poko lang, ulan, baha, iya gayot. So again, we may consider these facts. One is we identified areas because these are always flood is very eminent. So I hope our government of agencies already tried or is trying its best to mitigate the situation. Pero until now, tali pa man syempre baha. Baka tiyan lang gayot poko pa problema. Okay? Okay, si tiyan daw manada agwa, porque tiyan ito pa drought, dryness. Okay, when we talk about heavy downfall of rain or too much rain every day, we may call it La Niña. La Niña. Correct. Pero si no hay daw agua, igual ara, part of natural calamities is drought. La Niña. You know, why this so extreme? More water and this time no water. Drought. Only God knows why it happens. Maybe I would say it's a wake-up call. Maybe when there is enough water, we need to save. We need to regulate. We we are not supposed to be wasting water. Ben manada gane ele porque taligan no hay agua. O, di ba? So nisisita kita sene onde ponel agua, preseraliga no hay agua, drought or La Nino, sene kita kay kosa usa. Okay. So hindi lang nyo panakel man elaborate kay porque as an advocate for environmental protection, I also would like that Zscmst will have its own water reservoir for in case that we will be having lesser water, fresh water. We have stored water for domestic use. So hopefully we will be able to meet all these preparations for us to be able to mitigate drought, even for domestic use. Kasi si el diaton agua ta produci el samsel ko ere abla el water district ta usa kita hindi kita ta kontrola, and these are drinking water, these are potable water. Taka batamen el diaton fresh and clean water. When heavy rain comes, we can store water and place it in our reservoir. So, it means we can control the use of fresh water by cleaning our rooms, by cleaning our comfort rooms, by doing domestic use using rainwater. El mga agua ng gripo, tausa lang kita para tuma ibanya. Pero other uses for domestic, tausa kita konel rainwater. So I hope our dear students will also have the so-called mechanism in our respective homes, that when there is rain, try to save water so that when you clean your when you do domestic chores inside the house, you will be using the rainwater, and the fresh water that comes in our faucet will be used only for drinking, will be used only for taking a bath. Okay, so these are just part of our preventive measure para el diaton agua will be used properly. Okay, next is one calamity that we are also facing always is the man-made calamity, the fire. Okay, March is declared as the kaltabla sila hindi man kalabla kita month of fire, but fire prevention month. Okay, so ken ba kere kema el casa? Of course, no one would love to, but again, we can prevent things to burn. To be more conscious about how we do our activities inside our homes, when we are outside in the community, when we saw things parking na mga poles di aton tan report ba kita, or we just carefree bahala hindi man sila mong kasa. Okay, what if? So when you also go to your working places, you also go to your schools, do we switch off the lights? Do we unplug electrical appliances before we leave the room? Do we do that? Because these are possibilities. When people are out in a room and those are not switched off, that would cause fire. Sorry. Okay? So, again, prevention is better than cure. Amakal sila taabla, benab daw era, yaruba lang, but hindi yakema. Or if not, nuay pasabaha. Pero, all of this, who would love to happen in our respective areas? Okay, so I guess those mentions are the different calamities that we need, that are identified, and for us to be able to prepare. Maybe I would rationalize on the idea that all are identified and all are given specific preventive measures, but the end point there is, do we take this information seriously, or we just take it for granted that sometimes when it does not hit us, we don't care at all? Pero si Talia, yatupaya, culpa yatamen di mayor. Culpa yatamen del government agencies. But as responsible citizens of the Republic, responsible residents of our community, we should do our part. We should continuously and religiously be of service to everyone. Sinabi nga, and preparedness, knowledge and capacities developed to effectively anticipate, response to recover from the impacts of likely, imminent, or current hazard events or conditions. So information is very essential, is very important. With the right information, with the right attitude, with the right character to react on this information given, we do actively, we do it actual, not necessarily to papers. So yun. Of course, again, people will always say, it's human nature. If we are not affected, we are not going to prepare. But again, when we are caught unaware, that is so painful. Okay? So, we could not be saying that we have to be overreactive to the situation. If we could be overreactive, then that would be very, very good. As far as disaster risk reduction management, the Philippine government have done its part. One is we created the National Disaster Risk Reduction Council. Okay? This agency is the one in charge in monitoring and preparing the Republic for possible for all of these problems. Okay, so when we talk about the disaster risk reduction management, it aims to reduce the damage that caused by natural hazards like earthquakes, as we mentioned earlier, floods, droughts, cyclones. Do we have cyclones? Cyclones is aninipot, sir, no? Katong dagko kayo. Okay? And through prevention. Disasters often follow natural hazards. Disasters severely depends on how much impact a hazard has on society and environment. Okay? When we do disaster risk management, is the application of disaster risk reduction policies, strategies to prevent new disaster risks, reduce existing disaster risks, manage residual risks, and contributing to the strengthening of resilient and reduction of losses. So this is what you call disaster risk management. There are 4 aspects of disaster risk reduction management. We have disaster prevention and mitigation. We have disaster preparedness, disaster response, and disaster rehabilitation and recovery, which corresponds to the structure of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. Okay, these are the 4 major responsibility of this agency. Okay, so why DRRM important? Because it helps us identify the map local capacities to cope with these hazards. Ultimately, the DRR approach helps us conduct effective disaster response while reducing risk that similar disaster will occur. It also ensures that our emergency response does no harm by replacing or reinstating critical vulnerabilities. Okay. Disaster management is very important to survive in case of a natural or a major man-made disaster and can be defined as the organization and management of resources and responsibilities for dealing with all humanitarian aspects of emergencies, in particular preparedness, response, and recovery in order to lessen. Okay, so there you have. These are all the technical terms of our a part of our discussion this afternoon. Okay, let me talk about first as far as the DRRM effort of the Republic. As what I made mention, we are very lucky that we already have our National Disasters Reduction Management Council, which is the major agency of government that take care on all of our preparedness for disaster risk reduction. At the same time, with that contention, they are being cascaded to the different local government units. It means all LGUs in the Republic or in the country are mandated to create its own DRRM to help the national government in effort to lessen impact of disasters. And again, especially to all government agencies as well. We are all mandated to have our office disaster risk reduction management at the same time. So, when you talk about support of government, when you talk about resources as far as disaster risk reduction management is concerned, it's already in place. What we have to do is to be more responsive for us to be able to cope with this situation. Okay? So, I guess I also would like to impart to our students our emergency kits. So, engineer, can you show us the lifeline kits? Again, thank you very much, Red Cross, for making this list for us. Okay, so I guess to our live streamer viewers, we have a... Sige. We'll try to technically check first on our list. Okay. Sige, yatsene po ko kami technical problem on our list. Okay, let me just see it here. Okay, so let's have first a rest for a while. Let's have a... Okay. Lumaya daw kita man rest, abla si engineer. Okay, so there you have in our live stream, our 72-hour lifeline kit for family with 5 members. What do you mean by this? These are emergency bags which we can prepare. Not necessarily because we only think of amla kita ko sa sucede, but we need also to do this preemptively. So, again, I would like to extend also thanks to Philippine Red Cross for doing this. Okay, for food items, what are these to be placed in our emergency kit or the lifeline kit? So we need to have canned goods, biscuits or power bar, candies, disposable plates and utensils, water and water purifier tablets. Okay, which this could sustain for 3 days. Okay, because naturally the projection is that when there is flood and situations like that or earthquakes at that, so we can always bring this with us, and this could sustain us then. Okay, so our SOS kit, we need to have there our flashlights or solar or with rechargeable batteries. We need to have AM radio transistor with extra batteries. ¿Por qué? Why do we need to have that? Because we need to be informed whenever there is a calamity. Kasi when there is earthquake, when there is typhoon, sometimes automatically blackout. Although, hindi man si abnormal na Zamboanga. Maskin may man typhoon or earthquake, siya na magkita blackout. Pasensya ya ha, pero it's a way of life already. Okay, so we need to have rope also. What is the rope for all about? Again, for emergency use. Okay, duct tape, Kosa kasi sila usal duct tape. But of course, this could be very effective later on. So, multi-purpose knife or can opener. The glow stick. Of course, glow stick will always glow in the dark. So, when there is blackout, so you need to glow. Okay? Hindi kay di mo kabesa tan glow. Okay, so matches or lighters or candles. So we also have plastic sheetings or garbage bag. Okay, ¿por qué? Okay, with all what is happening, you still need to safeguard your own waste. Hindi kay buta lang onde-onde. At the same time, this plastic sheetings or garbage bag could also protect your belongings from getting wet. Or heating blanket or sleeping bag. Also, of course, map. Kasi baka you'll be there to bira. So you need to also locate yourself wherever you are. So, of course, the pen and paper. Normally, when you need this, of course, it should be placed in a plastic container that could not be wet. Okay, for personal effects and hygiene kit, bath and detergent soap, toothbrush and paste, comb, nail cutters, sanitary napkins, infant needs, clothing, undergarment, and Ziploc bags. When you talk about Ziploc bags, of course, you can store all your personal those items that could easily get wet. Okay, most important, of course, you also need to have money. Kasi during emergencies, ulbi daw ya kita kaso ta sede, ya karga kita tatun bag, ngay ngali kita libasen. Baka ngay tamigatsen. Okay, so special mention also our special needs. The medicines for children, elderly, and emergency case. When you talk about emergency case, these are in cases of headache, flu, fever. So these are easily to be used. We also need to place their spare eyeglasses, toys or books for children. Of course, these are also very essential for psychological coping up. Okay? Abla kita, ¿por qué pa kita liba con ese toys or books? The point there is our children, our little kids will need to have diversion, if ever. Of course, mosquito nets. Okay, copies of important documents placed in the sealed canister. Yaabla ka kay sealed canister. Kosa ba si canister? Lata na hindi muha. Our passports or certificates. Porka certificates na kay siya muha. Bira kita na kasa, na may kita. Kosa presenta. In cases things will go normal. Titles and contracts. Ay, nagatyo problema. Kaya nagatyo title. Sana lang title na lapida. Okay. And also the numbers of emergency hotlines, directories and addresses of relatives and friends, and family disaster preparedness plan. Okay, are we doing this? The family disaster preparedness plan. In case of, aki lang kita po na sample. In case of tsunami, buyag, God forbid, it will not happen. The Zscmst compound is just adjacent to the main campus. What will we do in cases of? And for those who are living in the coastal areas, in case of earthquake and you could see tsunami probability, what will you do? This is part of your disaster preparedness plan. Okay? So, in most cases, of course, I may say, daw guilty yo ako neste because I don't meet my family to discuss whatever happens. Diba? It will be very helpful for us to be discussing this maybe by passing or maybe by a joke, but it could always be a very serious impact if they know what to do and where to go in case of this calamity, especially those who are living in the coastline. Yan earthquake, yan man tsunami, buyag-buyag. Of course, tabla kita buyag, tabla sila. Whether you like it or not, or like it or well, it will happen. If it will happen, of course, God knows. Okay? So, we need also to be having that as part of our preparedness plan. Kaya no pwede man kita prevenir kung tsunami, kung earthquake, but we need to prepare ourselves. Okay? So, I hope our students who are in the live streaming now was able to note on the 72 hours lifeline kit. So, kung naldi aton mga NSTP teachers, I guess we could also monitor our NSTP students with this. What are those things to be placed in the lifeline kit? Okay? So, probability they may not be submitting that, but they need to prepare that not only by mind, but also by heart. Kasi kung by heart, asa gayot. By mind, yan memorize lang. Okay? Wow. Okay. So, saan pa kita engineer yung entran na di aton kosaste? Na di aton live stream para pwede kita man answer whatever questions they have. I hope that with this time that we gave you, we were able to explain or impart informations and knowledge to how do we need to prepare for in cases of emergencies. As far as earthquake is concerned, the Zscmst effort is we always educate our students to react on the level of when there's earthquake, you have to weigh the situations. They need to duck, they need to cover, and they need to hold. It will always goes through anywhere you go. Because when there is rumbling of the land movement, the most that we could do is we need to be on the ground. Hold, we duck, we hold, and for us to be able to be safe. When the movement of the land stops, automatically what we have to do is to go to a safer place, a safer ground, away from hazards. Possible hazards na earthquake, falling debris. Baka el mga poste tumba ba, the glasses will break, and these are hazards during earthquakes. Okay? So I hope you need to make all this environmental scanning wherever you are now. Identify these hazards for you to be able to act accordingly when this situation comes. I know it's hard to be in the situation. Experience will always teach us. Would you like to experience to have earthquake? I don't like to. I like to prepare, but I don't like to be in the situation. But of course, we can't do away with it, but the most that we could do is to capacitate ourselves. Okay. One example also of a man-made calamity. Okay, hostage taking, for example. Our institutions experienced the 2013 Zamboanga siege. Okay? I can always relate to the situation because during the time, I was still the head of the civil security unit and I was in the cross line on the situation. When Zamboanga siege happened in our vicinity, we stayed the institutions and we safeguard the property of the government. We safeguard our students, our employees who are here. Okay, so if that will happen, first thing to do is to be calm. You check the situation, check the area. And the moment you are calm, you can think well, you will be able to act well as well. Okay? So, don't panic. But normal reaction, we do panic. But again, as a person who knows or who are informed about the situation, don't panic. Be on your toes, be in your right mental sense for that level for you to be able to decide after. Okay? Kasi if you will also be shouting and you will also be going anywhere else, baka el onde sucede el sitwasyon talya tamen tuya kore or you run to that place. Okay? Okay, example lang. Hopefully it will not happen. If in the other building, yatsene, ya entra mga armed men, yan hostage ko nalun building. And the Osteres building is just in the adjacent building. If ever you can still find situation to leave the area as fast as you can because you were able to note you can still leave in the exit way, do it. Do it as fast as you can, silently but in an order manner. Sir, order pagayot? Yatsenengan exercise activity, yes. Because if there is no order when you leave the building, definitely there is stoppage. Tsene can tumba, tsene man hysterical. What you have to do is to be calm for that level and act accordingly. Leave the vicinity as fast as you can, but be calm, be silent. Okay, in the situation na you are already caught in an area na there are already armed men or undesirable people in your area. One is, again, check your vicinity. What are things to be used to protect yourself? Sinaroom, tsene mga bangko. You can lock the door, be silent, for you to be able to let the vicinity knows or the people or looking for people na, okay, the room is closed. It means there are no people inside. But if ever that they're trying to get into your room, then prepare to defend yourself. Okay? So these are possibilities. But again, we need to take good care of our community by being what? Responsive. Number 2, consciousness. Be responsive, be conscious, and be responsible. When you talk about responsibility, you need to report undesirable looking people inside your community. Again, when Zamboanga siege happened, culpa del gente, no hay man report, ya sucede. I know, I happened to chat with one of our students now in Tampilisan. I guess somewhere in Tampilisan that there is exchange of fire between government forces and undesirable people. So I told to our students, protect yourself. Save your family if ever. Then the most that we could do is to report to authorities if you can see undesirable people in your vicinity. Okay? When you talk about undesirable, they are not part of the community but they are there. What are they doing there? So in doing so, you do preemptive measure. You do inform the community, the authority, that there are undesirable people walking around your community. And of course, responsible leaders in the community also will be checking this out. And this is part of disaster risk reduction management as far as man-made calamity. Before it strikes, there is already preemptive measures. So that is why whatever action there will be in the community, the people are also responsible to the situation. Numa automatically kulpa si di barangay kapitan di kagawad nuay manak kilaya manak si kapitan si barangay kagawad sino sabe man sila o sa tasusede na sitwasyon. Okay, so there are two, man-made calamity and the natural calamities. I hope our dear listeners was able to get the idea and we could already start by identifying hazards in our area. At home, possible mga hazards yan as far as possible fire, electrical connection ba de ustedes, benamente? Second that, are we also experiencing octopus connection? Akal octopus connection, uno, sakit, ya chucha, extension wire, ya chucha another socket, ya chuchetamen another extension wire, and so on and so forth until sometimes yak kema na casa. Well, ken mangkelya ase. So, again, we in the family should be very responsible in our actions. All of us must be very much conscious in the situation. El mga gasul ba di aton na casa di aton? Benamente ba el connection? Do we do that every day, checking of our cooking areas? Taase ba kita konese? Si hindi, we try to do that religiously. Hindi lang ka early morning, abri diretso konel di aton kalan. Buwang! Yan sound gat el buwang. Yare benta, kay el gasul gali, cheni leaking. Porque man to yare engineer? Yan leaking ya gani. Okay, so this is just part of our reminders to everyone. Preemptive. When we talk about preemptive measures, we are talking about before it happened, you already mitigate the situation. Aki na campus, mananda kita during regular school days, di aton mga electric fans, di aton mga lows abierto. Ken ba konese man off? Man off konese, el ken last ya usa. Hindi kay Chenea ko saya suside, alaman niya na man identification niya. Elekel, silakel. Naya kemaya.
Correct ka dyan.
So, what we have to do is very much responsible to these actions. Okay? So, kosa pa nadiaton, wala na makita, engineer? Okay. So, with that, I guess we already have in part so much of our information campaign to our listeners, to our students. And one last point that I would like to impart to everyone, the situation that we have now with COVID-19 is still there. We need not to be very comfortable with the situations, as in we are allowed to roam around the city. We are allowed to go anywhere. Continuously, please, we are begging to please wear your mask properly. Wash your hands always. And of course, if you not, do it by detergent soap or do it by alcohol for that matter. If it's not needed for you to leave your homes, don't do it anymore. Okay? It will become a disaster if you reach home and you bring with you the virus and you don't do preemptive measures by what? Siya konekta kon ese virus na pamilya, and with that situation you cannot anymore control, then it becomes a disaster. Just yesterday we had a Zoom meeting with my friends all over the world. Social no, all over the world gayot. Yes, because I have my Ship for Southeast Asian Youth Program friends all over the world who are nurses, who are bankers, who are lawyers, who are now working abroad, and they have said, one of my friend who is a nurse in one of the hospitals in the United States, Yablagatele, please, every day we could see actual situation. People infected, people struggling to survive, and people die. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. And also my friend also in Bulacan, he was also became positive. And he said, hindi biro ang nangyari sa pamilya. So again, we always thank God that until now we're very healthy and we're very strong. We are almost to have vaccine. According to the President of the Republic, we are already having plans, preparations to buy vaccines. But how effective the vaccines are, we still do not know. But this does not erase the fact that COVID-19 is just around the corner. What we have to do is to cut the chain of infection. Thus, we could say that we were able to mitigate the situation. Okay? So, my dear students, we may not be seeing each other inside our school, inside our classroom, but our minds and our hearts will always be with you. We are trying our best to do online works for you so that the continuity of learning will be there. Our teachers, our learning managers, so-called, are doing its best for us to be able to impart the knowledge that we are supposed to give to you. But of course, to our faculty, I know I may not be in your situation now, but it's really hard to cope with the situation. It's really hard for us to say, doing all this stuff for our students, after that, checking all of that, and technologically, sometimes we cannot still cope. But again, don't give yourself a very stressful situation. Chill accordingly. Accordingly to the commission, let us do our part. Let us do our best. And one of our deans made mention also during our meeting. He said, in the actual situation, the aton estudyante hindi pagayot ta-aprende gat bien, talya pa kita na classroom, what more si online pa kita. So, to lessen the burden and the stress, don't give ourselves stress and burden. More so, let us not give stress and burden also to our students. Okay? Then I'm now talking not as a head of the disaster risk reduction management, but now as the dean of the student services and student affairs and academic services. We heard that there are suicidal tendencies around in Luzon and some other parts of the country. Yauwi kita kaya tsene depression because of our students who are trying to cope with the learning strategies. Again, we cannot zero on the fact. There are possibilities. With that possibilities, we learn to mitigate and we learn to do check and balance. For us not to have stressful situation, then let's do the simplest way to connect with our students for that matter. So with that, I would like to impart the last point. Life is what we make it. If we make it difficult, then it's what you have done to yourself. So, with the Disaster Risk Reduction Management Inputs Lecture, hosted by the National Service Training Program, headed by Ma'am Van Tumanda and the rest of the team of the NSTP of the Zamboanga State College of Marine Science and Technology. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity for this information drive, and of course to Marino News FM. Thank you so much for being the venue of this wide range information connectivity. So, thank you so much. Godspeed to all of us. Be safe and healthy always. Goodbye.
Zamboanga, you are listening to 106.7 Marino News FM.
Sa panahon ng kalamidad, maging laging handa. Makinig sa